covering the takeover of this club is the most frustrating thing, because a lot of the stories I cover, I always say after I get into the news, I wouldn't believe this source isn't good, this is a PR spin, take it with a pinch of salt, we know NDAs have been signed. It's so hard to know what to believe with the Man United takeover. So the purpose of today's video is to really talk about and kind of break down everything you need to know in regards to these stories, the truth behind these stories, and really why are all these stories coming out, what's true, what's not true. And I'm going to tell you something now. We won't know who the next owner of our club is going to be until it's over. We are not going to know if Sir Jim is really close to buying the club, if Sheikh Yassim is really close to buying the club, or if a minority investor, fingers crossed he doesn't, but if a minority investor comes in and allows the Glazers to stay. We won't actually know that until it's over, because I'm going to lay this out to you before I get into the news. Essentially, it's almost like applying for a job, this kind of takeover process. Essentially, there's NDA signed because they want to keep the whole thing really quiet. The Glazers don't want us to know what's going on. So these reports coming out from all these journalists, 95% of the time it's either made up by a journalist for clicks, or it's something that the club has put out to a journalist because it's what the Glazers want people to think. But with the takeover, essentially right now the Glazers probably have a favourite. We don't know if it's a minority investor, we don't know if it's Jim, we don't know if it's Qatar. But with this favourite, they will be leading on this favourite, going into a more advanced situation with this favourite, but keeping the second favourite around just in case. So let's say, for example, the Qataris could be in really advanced talks with the Glazers right now. Ben Jacobs suggested they may up their bid. There's a few suggestions that the Qataris are going to up their bid in October. For all we know, the Glazers and the Qataris could be in talks, and the Qataris could be willing to up their bid, not to 6 billion, but maybe 5.5 billion, and the Glazers compromise on it. This could be talks ongoing. They could be putting in a bid really soon. But obviously, Qataris aren't going to want Sir Jim to know that, because then he might try something. The Glazers will want to lead on Sir Jim, so if something falls through with Qatar, they can fall back on Sir Jim, etc. So basically, the moral of the whole takeover story is we won't know what's actually happening until it's happened. We will get a lot of stories saying it's going to be Qatar, it's going to be Qatar. We'll get a lot of stories saying it's going to be Sir Jim, it's going to be Sir Jim. We'll get a few stories saying they might stay, they might stay. But essentially, until it's happened, or nearly over, I don't think we'll know the truth. We've got Ben Jacobs coming out today saying the Qataris are thinking of putting another bid in. They're desperate to buy the club. We had a report coming out last week that actually Sir Jim had been in advanced talks where Sheikh Yassim apparently hasn't. So that could suggest that Sir Jim's in the lead. Then 3 weeks ago, we had a report coming out that the Glazers were set to stay. Now, I know for a fact, and I'm going to tell you something for a fact, the Glazers can't stay unless they get a minority investor in that's willing to give them a lot of money. Now, if you're a minority investor, you're not willing to give the Glazers a lot of money. If the Glazers do get minority investment, they will have to invest that in the club, and they can't pocket it. Also, if the Glazers get a minority investment, the company that gives the Glazers minority investment is going to outrage a lot of fans, and that could impact their company image. So I don't think the Glazers are going to get a minority investment. In fact, I do believe the Glazers are going to sell. I couldn't tell if it's to Sir Jim, I couldn't tell if it's to Qatar. Now, reports do suggest that the Qataris feel they can easily beat Sir Jim, and we do know that 4 of the 6 Glazer siblings want to sell to Qatar. The other 2 are conflicted because Sir Jim gives them the opportunity to stay, but reportedly, Sir Jim won't give them voting power, which is why they haven't chosen Sir Jim's bid. That's an interesting thing. Now, the thing about the takeover news is, again, this is what we know for a fact, but how factual is it? Everything we get told is come out for a reason. Very few stories that we get told is actually what's happening. David Ornstein said this, and I want you guys to remember this. He used to ask you now what's going on with the takeover, and he said every time he asked them, he got a different answer. One minute they'd say that, they're going to stay, or they're thinking of staying. The next minute, he'd be getting told that the Qataris are in the lead. The next minute, he'd be getting told that obviously Sir Jim is in the lead. And David Ornstein stopped really commenting on the United Takeover. He just said, I expect advancements sort of October period from what he's hearing. Because David Ornstein knew every time he went to the club and asked the club what's going on, they gave him a different answer because the club didn't want him to know what was going on, and he doesn't want to ruin his journalist credibility. The club doesn't want anyone to know what's going on. It's part of the negotiation tactic. 80% of the stories that come out that are from club briefs, who the journalists, the club's brief, they are normally things that the club has deliberately put out. Like the report that they're going to stay, that was deliberately put out as a negotiation tactic to try and get Qatar and Sir Jim to make another bid. Then the Sun put out a report that the Qataris are closing in just the day after we lose, or the day before there's meant to be some kind of protest. It's very obviously a PR spin. A lot of the report is about timing and stuff, which is why I'm going to get into who can you believe and who can you not believe. Now, Ben Jacobs has some credibility in this. He does work for American companies. He's got some sources. And I think, you know, when he puts out information, he's definitely heard it from someone. I don't think he's lying. But I think a lot of the information he's putting out right now is rinse and repeat, because if I speak about the takeover, particularly the Qatari side, I'm going to get clicks. I don't think this information coming out is particularly new, in all honesty. I think Matt Lawton's of the Times seems to have a connection to Sir Jim's camp, and I think if there's any advancements in Sir Jim, that will come from Matt Lawton of the Times. Mike Keegan seems to have some connections close to the Qataris camp, and if there's any advancements with the Qataris, I think that Mike Keegan will say that. Now, what is said with the NDAs is that Sir Jim and the Qataris can't really go and tell anyone what's happening. A few reports come out here and there, I think out of pure frustration, but I think if it comes from Reuters or Bloomberg, it's pretty reliable, and it's probably a brief from Rain. If it's come from Mike Keegan, it's probably come from Qatar. If it's come from Matt Lawton at the time, it's probably come from Sir Jim. I think people like Romano, Whitwell, Ornstein, Ben Jacobs at the moment, they have some kind of credibility. But again, for me, I would say with the takeover, unless it comes from Keegan, Reuters, Bloomberg, or Matt Lawton, I'd say that you don't know really where it's come from, and I think you take it with a pinch of salt. I think a lot of the takeover news coming out now is journalists that are putting out fake stories for clicks. They know it gets clicks, they know it gets interactions. Sometimes things are put out as a PR spin by the club, sometimes things are put out as a negotiation tactic. You know, we still saw it, you know, in March or April time, we were getting told that Sir Jim is so close to buying the club. I think it was April, we were getting told by loads of credible sources that Sir Jim was going to be named the preferred bidder really soon. And then what happened? Qatar put in 2 new bids after that. Clearly the Sir Jim report was a negotiation tactic. Now, right now, as the takeover stands, we're in a really advanced situation. Essentially, Qatar and Sir Jim have basically done all the paperwork, all the groundwork needed to become the next owner of United, apart from the Glazers choosing one and giving the green light. All the work's been done with Rain Group, Qataris, Sir Jim, and all it comes down to now is the Glazers choosing. And I think all the reports in the media is a guessing game over what the Glazers will choose. Now, if you wanted the answer to that, if one of Qatar or one of Sir Jim ups their bid, then I think the Glazers will choose them. They're waiting for someone to up their bid. The whole delays is because they want more money. That is 100% fact. There's not a lot of news we can believe with the takeover, but the delays is because they want more money. If the reports that the Qataris are looking to up the bid are true, then they could choose the Qataris in a matter of a month. But if Sir Jim changes his mind and decides to give them power, then they may choose Sir Jim. But then, it all comes down to money. They're going to pick whoever offers them the most money. A lot of good journalists are saying, well, this probably favours Qatar because they have more money available. However, they don't want to overpay because it will ruin their business image. Basically, the takeover is really advanced, and it's a matter of them choosing a party. And they could choose a party tomorrow, they could choose a party in 6 months, they could choose a party in 3 months. That is the situation. And that is the truth. And I think all the journalists that are putting out stories, a lot of the time they don't really know things. The club is either briefing things as a spin tactic, a negotiation tactic. You know, obviously the share price plummeted, so a few Qatari stories have come out, probably trying to get the share price back up. I think a lot of the stories coming out as a spin tactic, a negotiation tactic from those at the club, because I think actually the Glazers don't want anyone to have a clue who they're really close to picking. I don't think they want anyone in the space to have a clue of who they want to pick, who they're close to picking. I think that is the truth. And I think when the source comes out, when a bit of news comes out, we have to keep taking it with a pinch of salt until we get 3 or 4 journalists start to confirm this. And these are your Reuters, your Bloombergs, your Keegans, your Romanos. And then, you know, there seems to be advancements, but we can't really believe anything until there's a club statement. And the moral of this video is to tell you that I report on every takeover story because I want to keep you guys updated and everything. But after I report on the takeover story, I say, look, we have to take it with a pinch of salt. How many times we had reports and nothing happened? You know, everyone got excited that week that Rio said we were going to get the Qataris. You know, I said, you don't know until you know. And I think the moral of the story is we won't know which bidder they've chosen until it's all over. That is true. Until it's all over, it's not going to be released to the media. There could be a few indications just before it's over by a lot of good journalists, but it won't be released to the media till it's over. And this is because it's like a job interview process. You keep the second and third candidate available just in case something goes wrong with the first candidate. And then when you've got the first candidate, done deal, delivered, the second and third candidate drop out. I think if we start getting stories like Sir Jim's going to walk away because the Glazers demand this, or Qatar's going to walk away because the Glazers demand this, that will be the story we get before the announcement, where the runners-up, the losing team has been told they've lost, and they start putting out their PR, and then it's chosen. So the moral of this is to tell you everything that's going on in the takeover, which is essentially they've got to choose between one of the two bidders. If one ups their bid, they'll be successful, but we're not going to know till it's over, so we have to take the takeover news with a pinch of salt. But I think maybe before it's over, we might get indications of who's leaving the race. Anyway, I hope that clears up everything with the takeover news, because I'm so bored of covering it, and every time I cover it I have to say take it with a pinch of salt. Can't believe it till it's over. But I hope you found this clear, guys. Smash a like, smash a subscribe. Thank you for watching. Bye.